an original.
From Story Studio Network.
Hi, I'm Dean Gation, and this is the Powerful Connections Podcast. Welcome to Season 2. For many years, my efforts as a service provider were focused on developing, planning, and building high-voltage projects. Whether it is transmission lines, substations, distribution systems, or connecting generation, projects with my involvement have been successful. My company, DGG5 Advising, is the opportunity maker you need for your energy and construction projects. This season, my guests and I will focus on specific topics of interest and bring them to light in interesting discussions. On this episode, we will discuss the people, equipment, and resources in the service provider realm. My guests today are two of the superstars in the high voltage business sector. My discussions today are going to be with Brendan Fenton, VP Power North Utility Contractors, Inc., and also joining us is Brendan's partner, Nick Gation. Nick is president of Power North. These two are quite the dynamic duo. Today, we're going to chat about a number of items related to people, equipment, and resources in the high voltage sector in Ontario and even Canada, and for that matter, North America. The very nature of today's post-COVID world has added challenges besides just finding work and organizing it. Please welcome to the Powerful Connections podcast, Brendan Fenton and Nick Gation.
Thanks very much, Dean.
Thanks, Dean.
Brendan, please introduce yourself to our listeners.
My name is Brendan Fenton. I'm Vice President of Power North Utility Contractors, Red Seal Journeyman Power Line Technician by trade, currently overseeing the operations and project management for Power North.
Nick, please introduce yourself to those listening.
Hi, my name is Nick Gation. I'm the president of Power North, also a Red Seal Journey person, power line technician. Been in the business for well over 20 years now, and looking forward to the next 20 or 25 years.
So I'll let you guys give us a quick overview of Power North.
Certainly. So Power North is a specialty utility contractor focusing in transmission, distribution, and substation. We service several different sectors, mining, utility, and renewables largely. We're based all over Ontario, throughout some of the northeastern U.S. and down into some of the western portions of the U.S. as well now. Working lots in the off-road transmission space, as well as some of the utility distribution support space.
Thanks, Brendan. We've had some great discussions over the years on industry issues. And today I want to focus on your thoughts on the major issue today, people, equipment, and resources. And we'll get into some of those specifics as we talk on this episode, but a little bit of background. 20 years ago, in 2004, I was involved in a countrywide discussion on the upcoming pending ability for baby boomers to retire and the loss of people, never mind the loss of expertise and knowledge. 10 years ago, we saw this in real time as we were having issues finding people to do work. 10 years later, we compounded yet again with COVID. So we're coming out of COVID and finding people is a big challenge. We're going to talk about what the challenges are today to be able to go to work each day, but what are the big challenges when you're planning larger projects or regular services agreement work?
We've always had a large focus at Power North on our resources, specifically on our apprenticeship program, heavily invested into developing the younger generation of journey persons coming through the trade and starting to learn. We focus a lot of our energy on developing those resources to ensure that we have adequate preparation for servicing the regular service work or some of the larger projects as they fluctuate in and out. I know that our team of experienced journey people, they enjoy teaching, the younger generation of apprentices coming up through the trade and sharing their experiences that they had while they were learning this craft in the field.
Thanks, Brendan. So, Nick, what do you feel you need to add to this with the apprenticeship and ongoing training that has to happen?
Well, I think one of the most important aspects of it is continually training people and not just doing it in spurts or when they are required, because if you're doing it once you require them, it's already too late. And I mean, Brendan and I, for the last 4 or 5 years, have had some difficulties finding upper level apprentices that can actually go hands on in some of the primary energized atmospheres that we work in. And that has been one of our biggest challenges, is not, just employing journey people or journey persons. It's employing a well-rounded group so that you're not, first of all, spending more money just to have qualified journey people there, but you're also spending the money to develop people for the future. And I think that's probably the biggest part of all of this, is just making sure that you keep your future in check and that you're optimizing your resources and making sure that you're building resources for that future work. Going from utility-based work to big projects can be a big step for some. And when it comes time to ramp up, it can be cumbersome if you don't have, a good group already and people coming down the pipe.
I think we've done an exceptional job at maintaining good exposure for some of our younger apprentices in all the different realms that you would touch as a power line technician. Lots of good hands-on transmission experience, lots of good hands-on distribution experience. And like Nick said, we keep them ready to go with updated training so that there's no gap in their ability to provide a service to any of our clients at the drop of a dime.
That's a good point. We talked about this not too long ago. Do you feel there's a difference in the incentive or motivations of employees if you've got a 40-hour-a-week service job week after week after week versus maybe a big project that's paying overtime and some travel in it?
I think we're finding a unique division in the resource pool now. You'll have those folks who will like to go out and chase the bigger jobs that offer, the overtime incentives and the longer duration shifts. And then I think you also find a bit of a generation now, sort of the mid-age, I guess I'll say, where they're looking to stay a little bit more home-based and have that regular shift and a little bit more consistency in the work cycle.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's been kind of a norm, but I know that the project-based work definitely will attract a different group of people that are looking for the bigger paychecks versus the family-oriented group that want to be home at night. So, Nick, on vehicles and equipment, do you find it hard to find in the marketplace? And is it taking longer if you order new units from manufacturer? And what are the new challenges with equipment and vehicles?
Well, I definitely think we've seen some relief since, manufacturers were strained from the pandemic, and we're starting to see a lot more of the typical equipment becoming very readily available. The custom stuff, the big stuff, the one-offs, the specialty stuff that's not used typically is still somewhat difficult to get. And I think people are becoming a little bit more diversified in what they're picking and choosing to do the work. We're starting to see a lot more being done by helicopters or drones, and that's alleviating some of the constraints that the contractors have in finding some of the equipment. With the technology of, some of the drone inspections alone is taking a lot of people off of the boots on the ground kind of deal looking up, whereas you're allowing that, I guess, availability to be used elsewhere. It really depends on what type of project work you're into. It can be cumbersome to go back and forth. It can be, cumbersome to go from sub-transmission to very large transmission. You really have to pick and choose what you're buying, what you're renting, and what you're leasing or putting on long-term purchase finance. So it is becoming difficult for everybody, as, obviously stuff is inflating in cost, and with tariffs, it means, a lot of different things for contractors across each border. I think that alone is going to be a little bit of a challenge to navigate, but as long as you have some good planning and no real big breakdowns, it's getting fairly easy to find equipment or to build equipment, and lead times have come down substantially. So,
well, that's good to hear. And I think the relationships you build will definitely help you find equipment as you go along. Those great supplier relationships and equipment relationships become more and more valuable.
Well, you can't put all your eggs in one basket. You got to be able to look around and find stuff and, never give up. It's not like, you're trying to find a pickup truck at a certain, Chevy dealer. There's not a lot of these dealers around, and you got to have and maintain good relationships and good working relationships with them, so that when you need more equipment, it's there and it's ready. And you even make some relationships so good with some of these vendors and suppliers that, they're asking you what you want before you even can afford to build it or know you need it. They're trying to plan ahead and make sure that they have options for you.
Give us a high level idea or response on some of the solutions for listeners to think about. What are some high level things that people need to think about with finding vehicles and equipment?
I think you got to know what you're looking for. You got to have a certain standard of what you're accepting or what you're buying. I think I said this in the last podcast, but it's one of those unique industries that you need $10 million worth of equipment to go and do a $10,000 job. And if you're doing $10,000 jobs, it takes a long time to pay for that equipment, and it's just not feasible. So you really have to make sure that you're buying when it's the right time to buy, renting when it's the right time to rent, making sure that you're not just wasting money on nice things to have. We have a certain level of excellence that we try to upkeep. And even when you don't want to see equipment sitting in the yard, even having it ready to go, sparkling, parked in a nice lineup in a clean yard, it makes a difference when you're mobilizing, when somebody comes and looks at your yard, even when your competition, sneaks in and wants to see it's all about. When you look better than they do and they see it, so does everybody else, and that's what we strive for.
Level of pride, for sure. Brendan, one of the hard issues these days is the supply chain. We could just say, give yourself more time to plan and be ready for price fluctuations, but there's much more to this complex discussion. So what do you have to deal with when you're trying to figure out a plan for a proposal, an RFP, or negotiating with a customer to deal with these fluctuations?
I think each situation is very unique depending on what the style of the project is and whether you've been involved with developing the project from inception, or if it's a fresh RFP request that came through an email and you're trying to mitigate the risk of material procurement. Just since COVID, with the delays in some of the long lead items and being able to provide those components in a timely fashion so that our clients can maintain their schedule and continue utilizing that high voltage product for what its intended use, was one challenge. We've now kind of compounded that challenge with the Trump taxes that we're starting to see floating around in the news a lot. It's creating a very unique procurement world for everybody. I think there's a lot of risk in it. For us, maintaining that open transparency with our clients and really, leveraging that relationship to make sure they understand the procurement pain points that could be exposed on the project, and just having that real discussion with them to let them know exactly what kind of risks exist and not really hiding it until the ink is on the paper and then starting to go through those hard discussions. So we like to tackle those right up front and make sure that everybody's aware of sort of the things that are going to be challenging for the project. Something as simple as a pole-mounted transformer, or something that could be as cumbersome as, the steel supply for a large transmission job that would have a multi-million-dollar impact on a project. Those things are discussed well in advance of exposing the project to kind of unnecessary risk.
So that's materials. What do you see are major issues and challenges when dealing with trying to locate, find, or decide on a subcontractor or even a service provider of either engineering or other kind of services?
I mean, it's a busy marketplace right now. I think that everybody is looking to work with the best. We have a great subcontractor onboarding program, and we really look to find the subcontractors and the service providers that share our values and really want to hold that high level of quality and safety on every project they do. Sometimes, we'll find a little bit of geographical constraint with some of the subcontractors. They may not be as migratory as our crews may be, so we'll be looking to have different subcontractors that execute similar work in different parts of our service area. But ultimately, you find a lot of the real value with them. They like to approach the projects the same way. You maintain a high level of trust and good relationship with them, and you make sure that the subcontractors executing the work have a high level of understanding of what they're being tasked to execute so that we can all successfully deliver the project.
So let's get into some of the underlying causes of all the angst in today's world to find people and equipment. So Nick, what do you feel are some of the issues you're having to deal with in today's world?
Well, like Brendan just mentioned, everybody's busy, so there is a great demand for additional people power, and and they're soaking up the average equipment that everybody wants. So one contractor brings back a bunch of trucks that they're not looking to use, and the next guy picks them up and ships them across the country, and you're looking at other options, whether it be bringing stuff across the border or bringing people in from across the border or from other provinces. So it tends to add unforeseen, I guess, expenses that you have to either absorb or find ways to pay for. So those are the real challenges, are making sure that you have the things you need when you need them, just like manpower and equipment, just like tools and materials. You have to be very creative in finding solutions when you hit roadblocks, and like you say, you can never say this can't be done, or we can't do it, or we can't figure it out. There's always another minute, another day that you can. And as soon as you lose focus or lose hope, that's when you start to see failures. And you got to have the right people, you got to have the right equipment. And if you give them the right tools and the right materials, they'll go to work.
Leadership and planning and organizing is pretty critical, and you guys are good at it. So what are some of the underlying issues with your subcontracted services? Right away clearing, surveying, engineering, civil works, et cetera. Where do you see some of your issues that you're dealing with these days and handling it?
It's like we discussed. It's a busy marketplace right now. There's a lot of activity in the energy sector. A lot of the folks are in very high demand to provide services on multiple fronts. And sometimes some of these service providers aren't necessarily set up for growth and delivering that higher magnitude influx of work. So you kind of find that they're a little bit constrained or bottlenecked in their ability to deliver. So we really hinge on maintaining those relationships with the subs that we have successfully deliver projects with in the past, and that we know that we can work well with and trust to execute, especially when we get into some of these more complex deliveries where you need to have that really high level of understanding and expertise to be able to deliver that product and that end result for the client. We have a really good group of folks that we like to call on, and they in turn really like to work with us because it's essentially a conflict-free project delivery model. So we all strive together to achieve it for the same goal for everybody.
A lot of the integrated project delivery models will talk about some of these issues of how to handle it, how to handle risk, but are there issues you deal inside project planning when you're trying to get to that step that now you're buying materials for a project? We're past the pricing, we're past proposal, and now it's time to go. So where do you see the issues are in buying materials for projects?
I think we see a lot of price fluctuation very quickly.
Okay.
A lot of the wire folks, the steel suppliers, they give you quotes that are basically valid until the end of the day. So it can be a little tough to go and continuously back and forth with owners and engineers and trying to get alternates approved and get to that ultimate purchase point. A lot can change, and as there is lots of competition in the industry right now, and a lot of big projects going on, orders can be put in hours apart, and it can change your lead time by months. Same thing goes with subcontractors. You could have that favorite subcontractor, and the next thing you know, he's telling you no, and he's broken your heart, and now you got to find somebody else, and you might not have as much experience with that subcontractor, but you got to make it work. And you can't just turn around and say, I guess I can't do this job anymore. You just got to go and find those solutions. And getting back to the material items, it's one of those kind of unique things that competitors will sometimes share amongst themselves. Nobody likes to share their pricing. Nobody really likes to loan equipment or loan people. And I've seen it for quite some time now. We do have a lot of contractors that we are very cordial with. Some of them operate in the same realm we do. Some are not even close. But, when I'm down or out or the next guy's down or out and we're helping each other back and forth to get the ultimate end goal of electrification or a project done or a repair done, it's nice to be able to kind of support that circle because, you may not want to help out your competitor, but the next time you're down and out, he might help you. And that's something that has become a little bit more prevalent in the procurement world. And we've had such good relationships with some of the utilities that, even they're helping us out or we're helping them out. It's not just competitors and contractors, it's utilities and renewable places and everybody's, the amount of calls we get of we need this, we need that, screaming and yelling, we can't find it anywhere. It's unsurpassable. I mean, I haven't seen this in a long time.
That's that trust. And we've always talked about speed and cost. If trust is good, speed is up, cost is down, and people get comfortable and going, I know if I call Nick or Brendan, I can find it no matter what, even if they know it's something else. But if a utility's down or they have a storm response to deal with, they want to call you guys first. And that's kind of the great deal that goes on, especially in the material world of sharing stuff. So for both of you, where do you see the best investment in your time and money to manage and deal with all these issues of finding people, training people, finding equipment, finding vehicles, obtaining electrical equipments and materials to perform your work? Where do you see your best investment of your time?
Finding more people so that we don't have to do it all. Finding the right people so that you can continuously take stuff off your plate and go after more work, after more problems, after more people. It's amazing how much you get accustomed to doing the reactionary items or the operational items. And I find myself the most guilty one out of all of us, just putting my head down and going to work instead of delegating or finding other people to delegate more work to. So I think that's probably our biggest challenge in everything we do. As we jump from project to project, as we grow, as we move, the biggest challenge is finding people like Brendan and I that can do all these things at the same caliber, and if not, be able to get to that caliber. Finding the right people that work in this industry outside of the tradespeople is cumbersome. It can be difficult, and a lot get tied up right away in how busy it is and don't necessarily enjoy it. So that's one of our biggest things, is finding the right people.
I couldn't agree more. I think we've done an exceptional job of building a really strong team around us that we work with in and out every day, and we all hold each other accountable to deliver the same high quality results every time, whether it's someone in procurement or in fleet management. We're all striving for that perfect delivery and making sure that everything is 100% operational all the time and in perfect working conditions. So I couldn't agree more. We've done a great job building an exceptional team right now and finding those key people to join us and grow with us and help deliver some of the exciting things that we're up to.
And it's the old discussion of, and we went through it, and I'll be honest with you, Nick's dad used to come up to me and say, you're the logjam. You got to get out of the way of people. Give them the authority and the direction to go do stuff, and then back them up. And the next thing you know, they're looking after it, and you move on to something else that is of more important and better use of your time. So good for you. I'm glad you guys can see the horizon, because I see a lot of great opportunity on the horizon for you both and Power North. We're going to continue this discussion another day about the future of the high voltage sector in Ontario, but the future looks bright for both of you. So in closing, do you guys have any last items you want to do? This has been a great discussion, and I really like your insight and your thought-provoking ideas, but what do you see are things you got to deal with in the people, power, and resources part of finding equipment and materials?
continued planned growth in a professional manner and continuing to add those key resources. We're going to continue to invest heavily in our apprenticeship program and offer a very diverse work program for them to come up and grow and learn the trade, and continuing to have the ability to offer that program and be able to train those resources as they're starting to learn the techniques of the high voltage world. It's just going to make us all better, because we're going to end up with a fantastic pool of journey person power line technicians who are going to be well-rounded to service our clients in any need, no matter what the call is, no matter what the time of day.
Nick, what do you feel you want to close this out with?
I think it was a very productive conversation, and for those listening, it's remarkable how quickly things have accelerated for us. And I think the major takeaway for Brendan and I are that, we got to make sure that we keep our growth in check, and that we're making the right moves and putting the right people in the right places, so that it's positive growth and doesn't, catch up to us in a bad way. And I blame both of us, because we wish we had more time to get to this point. However, it took us a lot less time than we would ever thought it would. And, I think that's the one thing that we need to focus on, is that we're making sure that we're taking the time to make the right decisions, to get the right equipment, to hire the right people, to make sure we're taking care of our people, and the rest kind of looks after itself. And for somebody like me, it's kind of disheartening, because that eventually you're not going to have a job there anymore, and you're just going to have to sit there and pretend to do work and talk to people and not fall asleep at your desk because you're bored out of your mind, because everybody around you is doing their job, and there's nothing more to fight for except for a little bit more work here and there. And as a business owner, an entrepreneur, a young guy, it makes you see the light at the end of the tunnel, that there's going to be more time to focus on the things that you really need to focus on. And that's not just operating a business every day of the week. It's looking out for your business every day of the week and planning the future for it. So the more we can wrap our heads around all of those items, the things that make the contracts tick and the customers love you and call you back, those are the things that you need to spend the most time on, and make sure that you're putting the right people in the place so that they can focus 100% of their time, and you're not just putting little pieces of yours to it.
Thanks very much for the insight. This has been a great discussion. Appreciate your thought-provoking ideas. The electrical and utility industry is benefiting from your leadership and involvement. As great leaders, you are both blazing a trail of how it is done right, and it is an enjoyment to watch your impact. So this has been another great episode of Powerful Connections. In this episode, we discuss many issues a business faces and deals with today in the high voltage services sector as it relates to people, equipment, and materials. So, Rainey, what important messages did you hear from Brendan Fenton and Nick Gation of Power North?
Well, it's always fun to see what the successes are of Nick and Brendan. These two entrepreneurs have always had a large focus on having not only adequate resources, but well-trained and experienced people. They've invested heavily in apprenticeship training, supporting the training programs, and providing apprentices with a wide range of experience to become well-rounded power line technicians. They need to be able to move from service projects to larger transmission projects when required, and Nick and Brendan have made sure that they're well-trained in doing that. Power North is also one of those industries that requires unique, specialized equipment that can be expensive in terms of bucket trucks and track machines, much like I was in the utility industry. Nick and Brendan have learned you buy when the time is right to buy, you rent it when it's right to rent, or finance to purchase, depending on equipment availability and the work they have on the go that's in progress. A big key is their expectations of excellence in doing business also extends to their equipment, and that's huge. They have a certain standard for great equipment that is clean and working well, and they find that pride trickles down to their people, the way they look after equipment, and the work that they do, which makes customers happy. Nick and Brendan talked about how good and trusting relationships to help in all parts of the business. In the supply chain, it starts with suppliers to deliver what's required on time and at the price agreed upon. With customers, it's being open up front with the issues that can impact a project, such as potential long lead times for some materials or price increases that they see coming. And with subcontractors, well, it's finding the people you can trust that'll deliver the same high level of excellence as Power North and be available when you need them. So that may mean finding good subcontractors in more than one geographical area because that's where Power North works. And the good relationships that they have with subcontractors, contractors, and utilities will help each other with people, with equipment, and materials, whether they're competitor contractors, as we've seen, or utilities. In a good relationship, they all help at various times to give assistance or ask for assistance when it's needed. The last thing I noted is something that successful entrepreneurs or CEOs rebuilding a business, as I found out, must recognize. Nick and Brendan have built a talented team around them. If the team knows what's expected of them and if they have the tools, the equipment, the computers, the training, whatever, to excel at what they do, and be they tradespeople, be they mechanics, procurement people, office people, give them that stuff, turn them loose, and get out of their way. The leaders need to become coaches, and they need to support the people to let the rest of their team do what they do best. It's really hard for hands-on doers to become hands-off leaders, but that's what Nick and Brendan have to do. Over to you, Dean.
We learned that through ICD and the nose on, hands out. That was always the good thing, is being good leaders. The key takeaways from our discussion with Brendan and Nick are: maintain good relationships with equipment vendors. Establish a standard of equipment is important to invest in your business. Planning with customers for procurement items is critical to the outcome, risk mitigation, and maintaining a schedule. Then finding the subcontractors and service providers that meet your values and create the trust for a good working relationship. Successfully deliver results, especially in complex projects, to meet your customers' requirements. Establish that long-term relationship and create repeat business. Invest in your apprenticeship program to build the resources, to build a strong team, to grow the organization in a professional manner. The goals and objectives are to provide your customer with a well-rounded list of services. Look forward to hearing from you after you listen to each episode. I encourage you to subscribe to Powerful Connections wherever you get your podcasts. Share the podcast with those you feel will find it interesting and useful. Connect with me on my website at dgg5advising.com or find me on LinkedIn at Dean G. Gation.
This is SSN.
Story Studio Network.